Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to take a look at this Spyderco Native 5 replica that I picked up from OK Knives for about 40 bucks. The Spyderco Native was actually introduced all the way back in 1997. These things are 28 years old now. And you know, these lockback knives have been a staple in the Spyderco arsenal for a very long time, and they continue to sell really well. I'd never really been interested much in lockback knives. You know, we all had that buck 110 that we had as kids and have great fond nostalgic memories of that, but we also remember that was not a particular user-friendly and certainly not a one-handed friendly open and close, at least not the one I had. I'm sure other people will say maybe theirs dropped and was easily one-hand managed, but as a kid especially, it was not. However, I've found this thing now to be exceptionally good, and we're going to talk about that, some of the good, the bad, the ugly. How I first came to even try this knife is a strange story in and of itself. Before we get into all of that, let's do a couple of things. First and foremost, if you're not already subscribed, we would love to have you join our little band of renegades out here in the dark corners of the interwebs reviewing replica knives. I don't always review replica knives. I review a lot of normal ones too. We just, you know, I'm on a budget. This is Blades on a budget. Anyhow, love to have you join us. Hit that subscribe notification bell. Throw your boy a thumbs up before it gets too late into the video and you forget. That certainly helps me out. I really appreciate that. I will take a quick peek at the box here. Again, with most of these, this does actually say it is a Native 5 fluted carbon fiber. This is not fluted carbon fiber. We're going to talk about that. And then what do they put in the box? So you always get the plastic. I didn't even get a little round Spyderco stickery non-sticker thing. And I see this more than anything else. These are military models. This is congratulations for purchasing the titanium military model. I think they just printed a whole bunch of those up, and I don't even know if the Chinese people who pack these up even know how to read that. They don't care. They just say, oh yeah, it's got a spider that matches, put it in the box and send it out in the mail. So that's a good thing, really, because you're not going to trick anybody into thinking this is a real deal knife. Spyderco actually did make a very limited run of a fluted carbon fiber Native 5. That was about 5 years ago for their 40th anniversary. So I didn't even realize they had made a carbon fiber one at all until I started doing some research. So there you go. You learned a little bit of a thing or two. Let's talk about how I came to end up with this knife and why this has now become really my go-to EDC. So first and foremost, you all know over the last month or two, I have picked up a Rosie or two. And having now held that, and you know the story, you've heard the deal, hand melting ergonomics, just the way this fits in your hand is like almost no other knife, right? This has totally changed the bar for me in what I feel like a really good EDC, lightweight, daily carry kind of knife can and should be. So that really kind of ruined me. Once you've had and held and used that for a while, you really find it hard to go back, okay? So it starts with that. That made me decide, hey, I kind of like these smaller medium, the 𝗕𝗫medium size knives that are, you know, all about the right size, the perfect balance of cutting capabilities, blade size, sharpness, weight, comfort in the hand. All these little things started, you know, really adding up for me. Then I did a review recently on this, the 𝗕𝗵𝗆𝗃. Then I started working on this. I thought this was actually just a piece of hot trash, which it was when I got it. Ended up doing a little bit of work on this thing, and now it became, oh my gosh, I love the action on this thing. Incredibly smooth, and the sound that lockback makes when it clicks into place is very addictive. Also like even that little closing sound, that bouncy sound. So after fixing this up, I've come to just sit and fidget with this for days on end at my desk. And I got a lot of knives to choose from, right? So now I've got that, but this is also another, this is not even a 𝗕𝗫medium. This is just a straight up small, right? But when you hold it in your hand with that forward choil, that little bit of a thumb ramp, not as much as a Para 3 or a PM2, but it just really fits good into your hand. And usually, for 99% of the things I do, I don't need a blade bigger than this. So I started realizing, wow, well, that's, you know, almost like a Rosie. That's a smaller knife that just feels really good and locked into my hand like it was, you know, made for my hand. Now, I'm a size large glove. probably worth mentioning. So even if you were an XL, you should still have plenty of room on even a small knife like this. All right, so now I'm using the 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗲 and I'm thinking, wow, I really enjoy these lockbacks in this size. I wonder what else is out there that I might like. I never thought I would like it that much. So I'm starting to look around, and I one more piece. So in addition to that, one of my favorite knives, y'all have seen this show up regularly on my favorite knives list, is the 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗲. Love the size and shape of this also. A little bit longer of a blade. This is more of the 𝗕𝗫𝗄 size knife. You know, you got plenty of room. You could even get 4 fingers choked back on this, although I don't know why you would. That's not the point of this knife. But I like it with the less of a hump than the 𝗕𝗲𝗃, right? I keep trying to love the 𝗕𝗲𝗃, and I just can't quite do it. That feels a little too much of a ramp for me. It forces my thumb joint back in there to really have to, it's just an awkward feel for me. So this is a much smoother, more natural feeling knife, right? And so I've loved the 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗲. So now I'm starting to put all these things together. I like the Rosie, I like the 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗲, I like the 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗲. What else is in this area? Obviously, that leads us directly to the Native 5. And that's where we ended up at this thing, right? Especially when you've got this in contoured carbon fiber scales. We're going to talk about those. And just, this is, you know, hand melting. But VG10 steel on these things, even though these are the replicas, they're doing these in VG10. VG10 is no slouch of a steel, y'all. I mean, that's the same edge retention as CPM 154 and CTXXHC, I think it is. So VG10's a good steel, right? So that's a pretty good deal for $40, right? And I did pay my own money out of pocket to buy this one, just so we're all clear on that piece too, right? So it doesn't matter. I'd tell you if it was crap anyhow. So I got one, except when I got this, the action on it was really rough. All right, I'll explain a little bit more on that later. And the lock bar was not seating well into the tang of the blade. Didn't even know that till I got into it. So this now becomes another project knife. Again, if you haven't, go check out my 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗲 video where I talk about some of the changes that I had to make on that one. So this becomes another little project knife. I made a few mistakes on this thing, but it ended up turning out just okay. I'm going to explain all that in just a few minutes, right? Now, what I have is a knife that, to me, this thing rivals the Rosie, and that's the whole story of this knife right here. In terms of fit, finish, well, in terms of comfort and ergonomics and fit in my hand fit, I'm taking this now more than I take the Rosie for my EDC knife. So it's just, this has become a shock to me. All right, let's go through some details. We'll get down to more details on that. All right, let's start by, did I already show the box that it came in? I did show the box that it came in. All right, let's do some size comps because it becomes impossible. I've already shown you, obviously, a few size comps, but the videos never make these possible to figure out. This is clearly a 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗃 size knife, right? PM2, 𝗕𝗲𝗃. This is even a little bit shorter, just a little bit shorter than that 𝗕𝗲𝗃. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same size. Let me give you just two others in case you have just other knives that are totally different non-Spydercos. 𝗧𝗵𝗍�vision, even the pyrite light. You can see this thing is even a good bit shorter than the pyrite light. So you would think, oh, that's a small knife, right? I still call it a 𝗕𝗫𝗄 because it hangs over the edge of my hand. If it hangs over, for me, this is just obviously personal. Everybody's got a different size hand, but if it hangs over the edge, that's a 𝗕𝗫𝗄. If it doesn't hang over the edge, it's a small. So the 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗲 doesn't really hang over the edge of my hand, it's a small. There you go. There's the official technical definition of small versus medium. Let's take a quick peek at the specs. I've already alluded to a lot of them here. The real Native 5 comes in just at 6 7/8 inches. This is the same length overall. Blade on the real one's 3 inches. Mine came in at 2.8 overall length with a 2.5 inch cutting length. Closed, it is 4 inches. That matches up. The real one is a little bit thinner at 130 thousandths. This is 150 thousandths, which is another thing that I actually like about this knife. Handle thickness is .43, a little under half an inch. This one is also the same, albeit contoured. Blade finish is satin. I put a little question mark on the satin because this almost looks like it's been maybe blasted on top of the satin, although now that I have it under this light, it doesn't look as like blasted or polished as it did under the regular house lights. So maybe it is just a plain old satin blade. Obviously, it is a flat grind. The real one comes in a fluted carbon fiber. I had to look it up. I didn't know what does fluted carbon fiber mean. I'll bring up another picture over here down on the side. Fluted carbon fiber, if you're into firearms at all, Wilson combat grips are at best, it's almost like a sunburst pattern that you can see almost rays emanating from one central point out in all directions. And that's what they mean by fluted carbon fiber. This is clearly not that, right? So not fluted, albeit that if you remember what I said on the box, does say this is a fluted carbon fiber. This is not fluted carbon fiber. Thank you very much. Real one came in an S90V. It was a special run, right? The carbon fiber one. This is a VG10 steel. I have no idea what the HRC on either of those are. This one's a little bit heavier than the original one. This comes in at 3.14 ounces. Negligible difference to me. These are obviously backlocks. You can get this right now. It's actually on sale. Of course, you know, this by the time this video shows, that may or may not still be the case. Less than 35 bucks. For 35 bucks, y'all, this is one hell of a steal all day long. I paid a little over 40, I think 41 bucks for it when I bought it. The real one, when you could get them, which you can't anymore, was 300 bucks. I did measure behind the edge. I have resharpened this blade. Because I resharpened it, that makes the secondary bevel a little bit taller, which means I'm into thicker steel, so 20 thousandths behind the edge after sharpening it to an 18 degree, if that makes any difference to y'all. All right, let's talk about a little bit of a closer look. Contoured. So the OK81 and 223 were also contoured scales. You can see this looks largely contoured, but the contouring is different. All right, let me see. I'm gonna have to go close up for this thing. So there's something about the contouring on this Native that is different. It feels different in the hand. It is unbelievably comfortable. And OK Knives does good carbon fiber. Every carbon fiber knife I've got from them have been very impressed with. This is not like G10 scales with a sticker of carbon fiber over the top. You know, a lot of Spydercos do that. No, this is through and through, front to back, solid carbon fiber. There also are no steel liners in this one, where there are, even like on the OK229, which is also solid carbon fiber, but it has the steel liners on the inside. The Native 5 does not. We're going to keep that out because that's going to come back in just a minute. This is the little brother, or that's the big brother, whichever way you want to talk about it. So really good, well done, smooth carbon fiber. It still has a little bit of grippiness to it. There's not texture. It feels very smooth to the touch, but there's something about the quality of the carbon fiber that it doesn't get cold in the wintertime, and it just, to me, it maintains its grippiness at all points in time. But you're just so locked in on this knife, you would never even think twice about worrying, is this going to slip on me or not, right? So excellent contouring. I will tell you, the pocket clip that came with this thing was horrible. So this is... this was, you can see, I've obviously put an aftermarket. This is the Lynch style deep carry folded over. This is from AliExpress. I paid $7 for this. It is supposedly titanium. It's not magnetic, so it's not steel. And obviously black coated. $7. Fantastic opportunity for that, right? This is the perfect clip. It's nice. It's deep carry. It goes in and out over the pocket. Good springiness, not too long. Look at how big this original thing was. I mean, it took up like 2/3 of the knife right there. Just way too big. I guess I could put it on this side and you can get a sense of what it would look like. It sticks up. It's horrible. I've never liked these. That ruined this knife. This clip makes the knife. It's worth the $7 investment in waiting for an extra 2 or 3 weeks to get one in the door, right? So that was a must-have and totally changed this. However, that being said, here's what you'll find out, like I found out. Same thing happened to me on my Hinderer as well, and this happened to almost all of my knives where I've changed out pocket clips on them, is for some reason the holes are not the same size as they are in the original. So when you get the original clip, it comes with black screws, right, that are supposed to fit because it would fit on a real Native 5. These Chinese replicas, for some reason, their hole patterns are different. It's like standard versus metric, but they're even totally different size, like they're almost a millimeter or, you know, half a millimeter difference in width. And the problem was So you would say, okay, well, I'll just reuse the screws that were on the original pocket clip. That sounds great, except now the holes in this new pocket clip are not big enough because they're, like I said, about a 1/2 millimeter wider screws, so they didn't fit through the darn pocket clip. So now I got to take my Dremel and ream out the holes just one size larger, which is not a big deal. I just put a regular steel drill bit. This is titanium, it's softer than steel, and just, run that drill bit through the holes a little bit to widen it out, and now I can use the original screws. Bit of a hassle, a lot of, work around, jump through. I'm going to tell you, this was worth it 100%. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat to have this knife the way it is right now. You just got to know it is what it is. That being said, it is reversible to all 4 positions, so there you go. If you don't mind that spoon pocket clip, and you're perfectly happy with that, you're happy with that on your other knives, maybe you don't need to do that at all. You'll be good. To me, this was absolutely worth it all the way around, okay? Non-capture pivot, that's typical. T8 on all the screws except for the pocket clip screws. Of course, that is also true. No steel liners, like I mentioned. Comfort is what this knife is all about. This is Rosie level comfort. That is a big, big thing to say. But that's why I have this in. That's why this goes in my pocket now even more than the Rosie. The Rosie doesn't have round, contoured carbon fiber scales. Has the same choils basically, and the same curved back that really makes it comfortable. But this one's even more curved than the Rosie. It's not as big of a blade, obviously, as the Rosie. It's more or less about the same overall size, but you get much less cutting edge. However, 99% of what I'll do in any given day, that is more than enough edge. What do we say? That's 2.5 inches of cutting length. It's tearing down boxes, it's opening packages, it's cut little, twine and rope, cuts open boxes and parcels and packages. Everything I need this knife to do on a daily basis. If I was going out to have a hard day of work at it, I would probably end up taking the OK229, the Shaman, which is the big brother of this thing, right? That's my hard work knife, and fantastic at that. I just did a review on that as well. Hopefully you can also see, let me bring these a little closer. This is the big and little brother. These two are basically off the same family lineage. You can see they don't have the hump like so many of the other Spyderco knives do. They both have that downward sloping drop point blade. This one looks a little different because the swedge with the lighting effect throws it off, but this really is a completely round top edge of the blade. It just doesn't quite look like that because of the lighting on that swedge. If I get the angle maybe just right, now it starts to look like a round top blade, just like the like the Shaman does. So there you go. Big brother, little brother, in case you hadn't figured those out. Both of these are extremely, extremely comfortable. Does have the lanyard hole on this. I will tell you, if you're John and you need a lanyard, you're going to have to string your lanyard before you put this pocket clip on because the angle on this thing makes it really goofy. But once you get it strung through there, it will still come out and then come up through this hole, and you'll have a lanyard that's wrapped around. Or I suppose, really, you could just go outside of the hole altogether if you didn't want to have it come through that hole. That's up to you. I don't, only John puts lanyards on knives. I say that. Probably some of y'all do too. All right, what am I missing here? Solid lockup. No blade play, no pivot lash on this thing. There's no detent lash because there's no detent. This is a lockback knife. You can whack this thing. You get a good lockback, you are not going to break that free, right? But now, here's issue number one. When I got this knife, there was really poor execution on the design, not the design, execution of the lock on this knife. Let me show you a picture of what I mean. Look at how this lock from the lock bar does not drop all the way in to the tang of the blade. It hardly drops in there at all. It is just barely hanging by a corner. Now, let me tell you this. I whacked the blade hard on a hard floor, right? Trying to break that free to see, because it doesn't look like it's locked up at all at that position. It would not break free, would not break out of that lock position. Now, some of that may be because you've got the whole flat edge of the lock bar against the flat edge of the blade tang, and that's also helping to lock it up in addition to the hook of the lock bar itself dropping in there. I didn't like that. That to me said, I don't feel like I can really trust this knife. So now I got to grind the tip of that lock bar away so it'll drop down deeper into the tang of the blade, right? Makes perfect sense. However, now let's zoom in and talk about what I messed up on this knife. So normally when this knife comes, you can see right across here, this lock bar is perfectly flush with the scales, right? Actually sits a little higher than the tang of the blade. So that's what it looked like when it first came, perfectly flush. Well, if you let the lock drop farther down into the tang of the blade, that's going to naturally mean the whole bar at this end is going to sink deeper into the scales, but now the other end is going to correspondingly go higher up from the scales. I don't have anything like a ruler here. I needed to have a ruler I could show this with. I guess maybe a piece of paper will do it. But look at the back of that lock bar was square, and that would have, look how far it would have stayed up outside the scales towards the right where you push down on that lock. So what I ended up doing after I fixed it, so it drops down into the tang, gives me a good solid lock up there. Now I got a lock bar sticking up back here on the back end of the knife. So now I have to take my Dremel and grind down the back of this lock bar so that when it is locked up, it doesn't stick way up above the back of the knife and poke me in the hand. So, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I chose the damned if you do route and just ground this edge back down so you can see that's just disappears in your hand. It's not maybe the most beautiful job ever, but for me it's a pretty beautiful job. I think that's a pretty darn good job actually. But again, just a little bit of grinding with a diamond bit grinding, and then a little polish, a little light sanding, polishes it back up, and then if you look at it in a normal light, it just blends right in with everything else, right? Very hard to see, and still gives you now solid lockup. So that was issue number one. Issue number two was really rough action. So the bottom of that lock bar, as it rolls around on the tang of this blade, you can see right in here, I should probably stay in zoomed in mode, the bottom face of this lock bar, right in here, as it's rolling around the tang of the blade, you can see those dark lines that show you there's basically two edges, almost like runners, on either side of the tang of the blade. As this opens and closes, this was really gritty right here, really, really gritty. Just felt like you were running over sandpaper right there. So what I had to do also was polish, when I had the lock bar out and I was doing all the other work, polish the bottom edge, that flat edge of that lock bar, to really smooth that out so it becomes very smooth on opening and closing. That's more a touchy feely thing than anything really functional. It didn't matter, but I wanted, here was the problem. I had experienced that rollout on this 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗿, and this one was done well. Apparently whatever they did to the face of this lock bar was very smooth, so as you're rolling this in and out, it just feels incredibly smooth. So now I have experienced what really smooth lock bar rolling action feels like, and this was not it. And after putting all that other work into this stupid knife to get it where I wanted, I needed to polish that down too. So that's why this became a project knife. Now, did I have to do those things? No. As I mentioned, this would not break out, even smacking it hard on a spine whack test. But you saw that picture. I'm not comfortable with that, and my fingers being, the only thing holding this thing up. I don't want my fingers to be what stops this blade from folding down, right? Nobody wants that. So, had to fix that. Also of interest, this thing runs on ceramic bearings. No, sorry, steel bearings. Now, I have the pivot. I just over-tightened it a little bit because I had to Loctite it in there, and I left it just a hair too much. But typically, when you have this lock bar held down, this was really smooth action back and forth, right? Still fine now. You guys have probably been seeing it drops to your hand every time you push that in. You can also use the heel of your thumb, so you don't even have to move down far from here to drop that down. Rotate it around, pinch it, close it like that. Do that because here's what will happen. Now I sit and fidget with this thing all day. This has become what I do while I'm watching videos or reading articles online or whatever, and you can do it just as easily with both hands. What you don't want to do is get in a habit of thinking I'm going to close it with my thumb like this, because now you've just got way too many fingertips in the way of that blade coming down. You don't want that, and I've already cut two pinkies to prove it. So get in the habit of rolling it out, dropping it down with the heel of your thumb. It comes down, hits that nub, so you're never going to cut yourself as long as your finger's anywhere up here. Pinch it, close it like that. This becomes all day fidgety. I can do it right-handed or left-handed. If I'm scrolling or reading something or using my mouse on the computer, I can sit with my left hand and roll this thing all day long. And I'm going to tell you what, this has become incredibly fidgety. That's what I love about this knife. There's so many things that I love about this knife. I love the sound when that clicks into place, even when it closes down like that. But that click, that metal on metal click, I know it doesn't come through well on the microphone. This is my fidgety knife. I've got all kinds of knives. You know, you normally think fidgety has to be like drop shut, right? Or one of these new button locks that just drops into place every time. Well, that is fidgety, great. But I'm going to tell you, fidgety just means I can do this all day long without thinking about it, without having to focus on it. And apart from annoying the hell out of anybody who's within earshot of me doing this for, you know, hours on end, it's just very fidgety. If y'all haven't done this with a lock back like this, you owe it to yourself to give it a try. But I'm going to tell you beyond that, I love the shape of this blade. I love the fact that it points down. It is so easy to do draw cuts, which is really what we do a lot of, opening boxes and packages like that, right? This kind of forward finger grip here, all day long, comfortable in any position. Heck, you could even turn it reversed if you needed to do some pull cutting. But the comfort level of how this fits in your hand, all the right curves, the contour, the jimping, just everything about this. This to me rivals the Rosie, and I've said that before and I'll say it again. Now you add a VG10 steel, which is really a 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗀𝗶𝗃𝗲, which the Chinese have been doing for a very long time. It has the exact same chemical composition as VG10. It's just their version of it, right? But 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗀𝗶𝗃𝗲 is way too much to say, so they just call it a VG10. That's a good, well-established steel, and it's got a good HR, you know, it's got a good edge retention. Knife Steel Nerds, I think, puts it at 4.5. I think maybe I already mentioned the same as basically CPM 154, 154 CM, XHP. It's up there with some pretty good steels. For a budget, fantastic. Low center line, good steel, great jimping, hand melting, got the smooth action. It's incredibly fidgety, way more than you would ever think it would be. Does have the typical branding on it. You know, this is a very faded. Normally, your Spyderco is going to have nice dark writing on it. It does say it's an S90V and it has all the same stuff on it, maker's marks and all that. You know, it is what it is. It's a replica. I can't really, you know, I can't complain about any of that. Sharpness-wise, I did sharpen this thing back to an 18 degree. You can see that's why it's got a little bit taller of a grind bevel. It's almost mirror polished. I did take it all the way up to an 800 grit on that. Came sharp really well. Felt good on the sharpening. And this thing is absolutely clean slicing all day long. I mean, you don't want anything more than that. It's a 10 out of a 10 on the redneck scale. I'm actually looking forward to putting this through the cutting test. This could be one of my best ergonomic knives in the cutting test as well. All right. Any negatives? I've already covered them all here. The lock bar lockup wasn't good on it. I had to sand that down and grind that to fit in. Then I had to regrind the back end of this stupid thing because so it wouldn't stick up above the knife. I did have to replace the pocket clip on it. I actually sanded down these little stubs a little bit here too. They were sitting a little proud of these liners, these carbon fiber, because the carbon fiber is contoured in, right? And these pins weren't made with that contouring in mind, so they stuck out a little bit. I ground those down. So this is a total project knife. And do I love it? Yeah, this is probably my favorite knife in my collection right now. Just, you know, I can't recommend it because it took me a lot of work to get here. But I'm going to tell you, if you're willing to go through that work, VG10 on this kind of contoured size and shape and all that, this is a fantastic value. And again, I will put this in my pocket more than any knife I own right now. So if that's any kind of indication how I feel about this knife, I mean, it is that good to me. This is the go-to for me. All right, I think I'm going to end it there. This has been way too long. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Throw me a thumbs up if you would, please, on your way out the door. That certainly helps me. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe notification bell. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.